Bring this meeting to order of Amador County Board of Supervisors. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we just came out of closed session. 1A, nothing to report, and 2A, the confidential minutes were approved. We're on to public matters not on the agenda, discussion items only, no action to be taken. Any person may address the board at this time upon any subject within the jurisdictions of Amador County Board of Supervisors. However, any matter that requires action may refer to staff and/or committee for a report and recommendation for possible action at subsequent board meeting. There's a 3-minute time limit. Any public comment matters? Okay. Approval of the agenda. We need to add addendum 1A to 3E. With that, do I have a motion to approve?
Moved.
I'm going to go with Supervisor Epperson. And do we have a second? The second is Supervisor Crew. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approval of items on consent agenda. Anybody for the public like to talk on this? Anybody on Zoom?
No, not at this time.
Okay, supervisors? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve as presented.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Supervisor Carnell. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 5-0. We're on to regular agenda. 3A, update on tree mortality mitigation activities by Tad Mason.
Good morning, Chair Brown and
Morning.
Supervisors.
Morning.
Tad Mason, CEO of TSS Consultants, and we have the contract with the county to implement the tree mortality program. I'm pleased to introduce part of our team, Dr. Richard Harris. He'll be presenting today as project manager, and then the county forester, Eddie Strufenegger, and we are the team that's implementing. So today we'll be presenting accomplishments from 2025 and discuss what our plans are for 2026. So we have a short slide deck here to present. Dr. Harris?
Hello, everybody. Let's see, a couple of guys I haven't met before, but I think we've run across you a couple times. So anyway, I've been the project manager on this project since 2016, long time. It doesn't look like the governor's declaration of emergency that started this whole program is going to be rescinded. It's still in effect, which means that the county still gets reimbursed by OES for its projects. So we're still good. I don't have a clicker, so, okay. So I thought because we have a couple new folks on the board that I'd kind of give a recap of the program a little bit. So the program identifies and removes dead and dying trees that pose a hazard to county roads and infrastructure. It doesn't apply to private property that does not have an interface with public infrastructure. So sometimes there's been some misunderstanding on the part of, some of your residents who think, oh, this is a program for me too. Unfortunately, over all these years, there's only been one program that has addressed the private landowner with a problem tree. And that program only lasted for about a year. It was funded by CAL FIRE. So, there's still a lot of folks out there, especially seniors, who are in tough straits. So the county is reimbursed for 75% of the costs for doing the program by OES. And in the early years, CAL FIRE reimbursed the other 25%. That's no longer the case. But on national forests, we were able to negotiate a Good Neighbor Authority agreement with the El Dorado National Forest, and they funded the program to offset the other 25% of any projects on national forest. So that's a good thing. The program works as follows.
Let me Dr. Harris, let me jump in real quick. So in addition to that 75% the state pays us, they pay us an additional 10% of that for administrative fees, which is our administration's done in-house already. So we've just been wrapping that additional 7.5%. So we're getting 82.5% of our costs back, is the way it is. So 17.5% we're having to pay for these projects.
In the early days, I mean, keep it to yourselves, but in the early days, you were actually making money with this program. Okay, because of the Cal Fire.
Say that on the microphone again.
Anyway, yeah, it's no longer the case. Okay, so the way the program works is that myself and the county RPF do a drive-by survey to identify dead and dying trees on properties. We then notify those property owners that they have a dead and dying tree that qualifies for the program, and we request them to send us a right of entry form so we can do the projects. So, you know, the return rates on the right of entries, you know, they've never always been what we would hope for, but, you know, it is what it is. Some people just don't want county folks on their property, or they don't want access to their property by, you know, for example, Cal Fire. The right of entry agreement says, you know, all these different agencies can have access to your property. And, you know, I think that's why people don't sign these things, so. So after we get the returns, then we prepare a tree list and a map. And the map identifies where the trees are. The tree list identifies the species, the size, and the distance to the infrastructure, and the lats and longs. We have to do all that documentation so that we can get reimbursement from OES. Next slide. So this is the Good Neighbor Authority, which I already mentioned with the El Dorado National Forest. It's a big tome like this, and you know, it's, I don't know who is doing the reimbursement now. Is that Kim? Okay, so Kim has been able to negotiate the Good Neighbor Authority to get reimbursement. So, you know, bless her heart for doing that, because the Fire Service is not an easy bureaucracy to work with. The next slide. There's the right of entry permit example. Now, this is mandated by OES. This is not something that the county dreamed up. This is something that was mandated by OES, and so it has lots of language in there that people can take exception to. Next slide. So when the project is awarded to a licensed timber operator and/or tree service company, actually now, because of some policies by CAL FIRE, whoever does the project has to have both a tree service license and an LTO license. They need an LTO license because we do exemptions for the projects so that the trees can be merchandised if possible. And, you know, over all these projects that we've had, there's been no problem disposing of the trees. A lot of the trees have been going down to the shavings plant in Jamestown for commercial timber. With the Forest Service projects, they have us deck the logs for them to sell. And I believe one deck that was at Bear River was sold to, who was that sold to? I think the shavings plant, right? So the deck went to the shavings plant. Okay, so the contract requires that all the trees and slash be removed from every parcel. This is in distinction with like PG&E, who leave the trees on the property. We take all the trees, all the slash, we leave the property in the same condition it was in when we entered the property, except the trees are gone. Okay. Then again, the contractor is free to commercialize the trees if they can, because we get exemptions. Some of the contractors that involved have included Mario's Tree Service, Woodland Expansion, which is a local company, Richard Stevens, who's also a local company, and then Community Tree Service. Where were they from? Santa Cruz. So we've had people come from all over the state to bid on our projects. We don't have any trouble selling our projects. Next slide. Since the project began in 2017, we've done 31 projects and we've cut over 11,000 trees. Documentation has been, submitted to OES, and as far as I know, we have the last 3 projects that we've done, the reimbursement is outstanding. I think Kim told us it's still, to come in, and that also includes the reimbursement from the Forest Service. But otherwise, all the projects to date, up to 25, have all been reimbursed. No problems with OES. Initially, we had a guy at OES who basically loved us. I mean, he actually took me around, to give instruction to other counties because he basically loved the way we were doing our work. Since then, there's been some changes in OES, and I think there's been a few, they've been a little different, but they're processing them. And no questions have come to me anyway about the reimbursement. Some have probably come to Kim, but she's addressed them. So all the county roads bordering private, Forest Service, and Bureau of Land Management parcels have been treated at least once, mostly up to 3 or 4 times even. There have been 16 different companies and no injuries or serious property damage, with a few exceptions. One tree, a logger on one of the companies felled his tree through his pickup truck. But other than that, we've had some minor property damage, which has always been corrected. They can't get paid until any damage they do on a property is corrected. You have any comments on that, Ed?
Are these mostly beetle kills or the trees?
That's a good question. Initially, the whole thing was started because of bark beetle attacks on ponderosa pine. Right. And in fact, when they designated the counties, the mortality counties, it was based on that. Well, since then, we see a lot of puzzling mortality. I mean, madrones dropping dead. True fir at high elevation. We're not really sure why these things are happening. I mean, we talked to the Forest Service pathologists, and the beetles they're sort of an obvious thing. You can just see the tree turns brown. But on some of these, they kind of die from the top down. Lately, we've been seeing a lot of sort of discolored foliage on pines and needle drop. But then that's next to a tree that looks great. So, we can't really explain. We can just tell you the tree's dead. Oaks. Why do we have dead oaks? And not just big old dead trees. I mean, little trees, young trees. So it's always, Ed and I just, we're sort of, what the heck killed that tree? Anyway, the public support for the program has been good. I mean, we've had, with the exception of the fact that we would love more ROEs to come in, the public has been supportive. We get, every now and then, we get somebody saying, "Wow, you did a great job." I mean, most people, they'll tell you, you did a horrible job, or they'll only tell you if you did something wrong. But every now and then we get an email and say, "Oh, wow, you did a great job. Thank you so much." And we love it. We've gotten about a dozen of those in the last 10 years. Next slide. So since the last report to the board in 2024, which was almost 2 years ago, we've done 4 projects. Project 23 was located on county roads west of 49, along with Electro Road, where we always find dead trees. We had 152 trees there, and we completed that in January 25. 24 was the entire county west of 49, or east of 49, sorry, except for the Forest Service ground. 548 trees. We finished that project in November of 25. Then the last two projects were 25 and 26, and those were both on national forest land at Bear River and at Silver Lake. And those were smaller projects than we've experienced in the past on the national forests. There were only slightly over 200 trees on both of those. Next slide. So just some examples of some maps that you know, there's all those little squares indicate mapped areas that, you know, go into a map book that is used then by the contractor to locate the trees. So this is Project 23, which is west of 49. Next slide. This is just an example of what that one page looks like. So this is Electro Road. You can see all the little dots and numbers. Those are the actual tree locations, GPSed on the map. And again, the contractors can use this map in Avenza, which is a program that allows you to find, you know, things in the field, or they can just import them into Google Maps or Google Earth Pro, and they can find these trees. Next slide. This is Project 24, which was everything east of 49, and you can see, again, all the map pages. Each of the map pages is kind of based on a sort of, you know, road or sections of road that make sense in terms of operational areas. When we go into these projects, we ask the contractor for an ops plan. Usually they'll use the maps, and they'll say, I'm going to go to map 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, in sequence. And so then we can actually know exactly where they are at all times. And I notify the property owners that are on each map in advance, so they know that there's going to be work on their property. And in turn, those people will say, you know, we've got a dog, we've got, you know, a fence, we've got a gate, whatever we've got, so that I can tell the contractors, or Ed can tell the contractors, and they can be alerted to any issues. Also, some of the property owners want trees to be left for firewood, so that's another way, you know, they notify us, hey, please leave the tree. We want it for firewood. Next slide. There's an example of another one of the, this is Project 24, one of the map sheets showing you where the trees are located. Next slide. There's just some before-after photographs. For the OES exhibits, I have to provide a suite of photographs that show what the tree looked like before we cut it and what it looked like after we cut it. So these before-after photographs just come from those exhibits. And you can see that, I guess we could call our project a beautification project because we remove a lot of unsightly trees. Next slide. So at Silver Lake and Bear River, we decked the logs. The logs for Silver Lake were decked at the old ski resort, Iron Mountain Ski Resort. I think those decks are still there, right? They're there from the last project, right? So they never sold those decks. They sold one of the decks at Bear River, but now we have another one. Next slide.
I know at one point in time there were concerns from, I think someone had come in and complained about the decking of trees, and that's not our choice. We are not choosing to deck those trees. In the Forest Service areas, we have to do what they tell us to do, and that's what we do. Otherwise, when the projects are within the county, we tell the timber operator, cut them down and they're yours.
Yep.
If you can sell them, make $1, so much the better. Give us a better price, but it is not our choice to do that.
Yeah, we went around in circles with the Forest Service on this. Originally, our first projects, we had a person that was on the Forest Service that said, "Here, take the trees, take them away. We're good." And we just had a tree removal permit. For these last set of projects, they've been, these are going to be operated as timber sales. So the logs have to be branded, they have to have load tickets, the whole 9 yards, as if they're conventional timber sales. But the logs are still there, so they don't get sold. Or they haven't gotten sold out of Silver Lake anyway. So new mortality. Okay, so we can, you've seen dead trees before. Next slide. Ed and I just did a recon of the county east of 49. We just did a recon of the county east of 49 to see what we got happening out there now. And we didn't see a whole lot. So part of that is possibly due to the fact that we haven't had, the kind of warm weather spells that cause mortality to happen. The trees are stressed, and then we get hot weather and trees die. So we're not going to do our survey now. We're going to wait for a while and then do a survey later on. But we will survey the entire county again to see what we've got come up with. Now we know that there's new mortality at the upper elevations already because we've had to leave some trees behind. Silver Lake, we had to leave trees behind.
I have one at my house, so I know.
Oh, we do? Oh, well, maybe we'll get it next time.
There you go.
In any event, we expect to continue with our work on the Forest Service ground this year. There's still funding left in the Good Neighbor Authority agreement. I think there's a little bit over 50 grand left. Should be able to do maybe at least one project, maybe both. And we'll conduct surveys at those locations later on, probably in the, late summer. We tend to go up to Bear River and Silver Lake because that's when the mortality really expresses itself. And then we've been lucky because we've been able to get projects done before we get shut out by the weather. So that's the kind of timing we look at on the national forests. Next slide. So we'll conduct surveys over the next months. There doesn't seem to be any indication that Cal OES is going to pull the strings on us or pull the plug. And depending on the level of mortality, we know we're going to probably do additional projects at Bear River and Silver Lake next fall. Next slide. I think that's it. Did I take too long?
Nope.
Oh, good. Okay.
Dr. King, when we originally did it way back when, they said they were hoping to get like 70% right of entry. They knew they were never going to get 100. Is that about what it's turned out to be, or a little low?
I wouldn't say so.
50-50 maybe?
Maybe in the early days, I'd say more like 40%.
40%.
Yeah. Again, we don't know why. And there's some places we've sent multiple forms to because they have the same trees year after year. So I can't explain it. I mean, we've had you guys do outreach in the past. We've done newspaper articles. We've done postings on the internet. We've seen very sympathetic coverage on the internet, for example, saying, hey, you guys got to participate in this program.
I think one of the problems was that wording that was required by the state, that specific wording that they're not liable or responsible for damage to the property. People see that and just kind of,
I know, and I have to explain to them that your protection is in the contract between the county and the contractor, because in that contract it specifies any damage will need to be repaired at their expense.
I know that, but whenever people are uninsured, they won't move.
Oh, I get
I
it.
mean, when they're unsure how something works, they won't do anything.
No, I totally get it.
You know, one thing I'd wonder about a little bit, is you got limited funding under Good Neighbor Authority. If you shouldn't look at maybe like taking out trees that are around structures more so, like maybe around like the Silver Lake area, and maybe even in the road in there, because that's high access, a lot of traffic, and maybe around the structures and up in like Bear River. I think you have that power line runs through there, so they take out a lot of them. But
Yeah.
that might be maybe look at doing that and seeing where your funding is before you go out and mark them on some of those outlying areas around Bear River.
Well, as a matter of fact, the Silver Lake, virtually all the trees we remove are next to houses. Wouldn't you say?
Probably 90% of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then
little bit
there's
different.
probably some in the way in at Silver Lake that are not around houses, but you got a lot of people using that road.
Yeah.
All I'm saying, like down there at Bear River, you got some roads that they're not quite, I guess they're used heavily too, but maybe not quite as heavily as Silver Lake. And I think it's important to kind of try to get the trees down around structures.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you're right about Bear River, because the summer home track there has got a power line running right through it. So we hardly get, we have just a few trees there. But we take out a ton of trees at Silver Lake around the houses.
yeah, and that's a big benefit to people. I mean, because when the county or you folks do a project, they get a lot better price than if you go and say, hey, come up and take out 1 or 2 trees individually. It'd probably be 3-4 times as much per tree.
Well, I think, in the past, I haven't figured it quite yet, but $300,000 to take out 500 trees, $600 a tree, right? So the average for the whole 9 yards, I mean, our work, the contractor's work, the county's work, all that is about a third of what one of those trees would cost the guy if he just had it taken out by a private contractor. In many cases. So I think, we're getting good value by projects at scale. Having projects that are multiple trees. The more trees we have, the better our prices. Anything else?
Okay.
Well, I just think it's been a real benefit to the people, the county, and even a safety factor. I know I was in Calaveras the other day, and I was driving through there, and this big old monster pine leaned over the road, falling apart, and I didn't even like driving under it, but they killed their program. I don't know quite why. Maybe they spent too much money in courthouse and law enforcement, possibly, is what I heard, but they killed theirs.
I don't know. I mean, we did it in Calaveras for a number of years, but then they shut us down, so trees are still dying.
Anybody from the public? Anybody on Zoom?
Not at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Good work.
Okay, we're on to 3B, the Resource Connection, presentation update on supporting Amador families and children in Amador County.
Good morning, board.
Morning.
We have these one-pagers that give you guys kind of a brief breakdown of what we do at the Resource Connection, so it kind of helps you follow along with our presentation as well. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mia Huss. I'm a Resource and Referral Specialist at the Resource Connection, and I have with me Karen Frazier. She is a Resource and Referral Supervisor at the Resource Connection, and we're very excited to be in front of you today, and I promise to not take up much of your time. I'll try my best. Next slide, please. So what is and who are the people at the Resource Connection? Well, we make childcare possible. We are a local nonprofit that services both Amador and Calaveras counties, and we have this huge umbrella of resources that we provide. So we are specifically from childcare resource and referral, which we give childcare referrals to families, help them pay for childcare with subsidy, and we also help providers get centers and home centers set up. So you've probably heard of WIC, which Women, Infant, Children, Food Bank. We have crisis centers in Calaveras County. Those are some things that the Resource Connection overall does, but not us specifically. Next slide, please. So we have a strong mission and vision. Our vision is strong families, sustainable communities, and successful individuals. Our mission is to engage families, empower communities, and enrich the lives of residents in both Amador and Calaveras counties. Next slide, please. So these are just 3 big numbers I like to point out to you guys. We have been around for 45 years. We have been servicing both counties for that long. And for us, it's just so important to show you the impact of childcare providers, children, and families we've served. And this is split amongst both counties, but regardless, that's a pretty big impact for our rural communities. Next slide, please. This is where I throw Karen under the bus and have her explain all of our programs in a little more depth, so I'm going to pass the mic over to her.
So I will give you just a little bit of, good morning. Child care resource and referrals, they are mandated.
Go ahead and bring the mic a little bit closer to you. There you go.
They are mandated in legislation that there is going to be one in every county in the state of California. So we're blessed to have 2 counties that work together. The highlight, this is like we say the core 4 of our programs within child care resource and referral, is finding and paying for child care. Finding child care is where the referral part comes in. We have a website, an 800 number, and then we have staff that are available to do TA one-on-one as a parent or guardian calls in. They're looking for local child care. We take a little bit of information and we're able to furnish them with a list of locally licensed child care providers and centers available to them. This TA is pretty critical because the nature of our counties, oftentimes we find parents live in areas where there's still a child care desert, where there's no child care available to them, so they might have to go to a different city. We might have to swap counties. They might work in Calaveras and live in Amador, and they might have to find child care vice versa, or drive cross-county to find it. And then paying for child care part. I think our number, it'll be up a little bit later, but we're almost in the 5 million mark annually for paying out child care subsidies to families in both counties. And 5.8 million, that was our mark for last year in child care subsidies paid out. Child care provider support, that's kind of where I come in. That's the fun part. So I'm the part that we help educate local child care providers and really help to bring up the quality of their program throughout the county. We do that by doing a local provider night. Every night we're open extended hours. Their hours are traditional working hours. Most of them are working 12-hour days, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we extend our hours till 7, 8 at night, so they're able to come after work and come to our office and use some of our services. One that's really critical in both Amador and Calaveras County is what we call FFN providers, which are friend, family, or neighbor. These are providers that are not licensed. They do go through a fingerprint background check to become a provider, and they do have some health and safety requirements.
Question on that. So family, friends, and neighbor care, are they paid to do that?
They are.
So the grandmother who's taking care of her grandchild would have to be fingerprinted and checked and...
A grandparent and an aunt and an uncle would be the exception to the fingerprint or trust line process. They are able to waive that requirement, but anything beyond that initial core family, so beyond grandma, grandpa, auntie, or uncle, has to go through trust line. And they do get paid for, and we do have quite a few grandparents that get paid to watch grandchildren.
I guess my grandmother wasn't with the times. I don't think she ever got paid a dime. She gave us a dime now and then.
Well, and you find, really in this day and time, a lot of grandparents are still having to work. So this kind of gives them the option to watch their grandchildren and still be able to bring in income to supplement. It's not as much as a licensed provider. Fractionally, I think it's like a third to a quarter, but it is some income.
So maybe we've advanced to a point where it's not quite so, how would you put it? Maybe our advancement wasn't much of an advancement after all. Anyway.
I think there's always, for me, I look at it as there's always room for improvement too. I think I see a lot of family members taking care of children and their family, and so if that's something that they can benefit from, it can go a long way. I remember when I was a kid, my grandmother watched me and didn't reap the benefits of a program like this, and I think she could have. So it's just the amount of getting the word out there and supporting the families through that process,
Yeah, I kind
making it
of,
better.
I thought it's something grandparents kind of did. Anyway, I digress.
So we find this family, friend, and neighbor care is really critical in our county because it fills a slot that is not available. We do know that there's a pretty critical lack of licensed childcare throughout both counties. These people are able to step in and give that alternative care. They're able to do after-hour care, so beyond the traditional, hours of a center. Weekend care is available through this program.
Next slide, please.
We just received this contract, the Emergency Child Care Bridge. We are on our second year of this one. This is giving immediate child care support to families that have emergency or foster children in their home. This takes the burden of a lot of the appointments and the paperwork that's required in traditional child care subsidies. We just get a direct referral from the local CPS office, and we're able to bring them in straight into the program. This has a separate set of money. Throughout the onset of COVID, we were able to transition a program that's been really long-standing, which is our lending library in-house. This is a program that has over 5,000 educational toys and books that we have in our office that child care providers, homeschool families, the general public, grandparents, foster parents are able to come in. Excuse me. They're able to borrow items, play with the children, utilize them, and then they return them for something else. This is really successful. We've seen just our numbers alone has had an 83% growth since last year. We do not go a day without someone from the community or multiple people from the community coming in and utilizing this service. We also public a community resource directory. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to see it. It's a little 8.5 booklet that has any resource you could possibly imagine throughout both counties. And it's marked, it'll have an A or a C or both if it's both counties that service it. We distribute about 4,500 of these annually between both counties. They go to the police, the fire, the schools, the libraries. They're in all the local spots, and they're really utilized in the county. As far as training go, we do about 70 hours of professional growth trainings. This kind of goes back to R&R. So we're doing professional development classes every month, every other month, to really keep our licensed providers and our FFN providers up to date on their professional development. And we do have the contract for the Amador County Grandparent Respite Program. Last year, we provided 460 hours of support for grandparents raising grandchildren. So these are grandparents that have custody of their grandchildren.
Do you know how many situations are like that in the county? Probably quite a few, roughly?
The numbers go up and down. I think the class usually has between 10 and 12 at any given time. They have a monthly support group. And then the respite hours are, they can get 16 hours a month where we will pay a child care provider so they can go to their doctor's appointments. They can just have a day of rest.
I hear talk to a fair number of people that are raising their grandkids, and normally it seems like the drugs is the issue.
Unfortunately, that seems to be the case, yeah. There's lots of different issues, drugs, there's mental health stuff going on. And that's why this program is amazing, because they have that support through the leader that gives them that outlet to kind of talk about what's going on. She brings in resources every single time they have a meeting to give them even more help. And then we have our consumable closet. This also was kind of born in COVID. And this is an area in our office that has supplies. And there's supplies that any licensed provider, friend, family, or neighbor, teacher are able to come in and pull from the closet completely free. It was initially started with COVID money. When that dried up, we were able to start getting different grants and donors through the community that help support it.
And I always like to show our 2023, 2024 community impact snapshot. So obviously our 24, 25 numbers will not necessarily be available at this time, But I always like to point out the childcare subsidies distributed to childcare providers. In 23-24, it was almost 5 million, and now we have reached over that in 24-25. And I also like to point out the amount of stipends administered to strengthening the quality of childcare. What I find is childcare providers, when you thank them for the work that they do and give them those incentives, whether it's providing them dinner at provider night or encouraging them to come receive free materials to bring back to the center, or they can apply for what's called the Workforce Pathways Grant, where if they're taking early childhood education units, they can apply for the grant through us and we can give them financial stipends to support them in furthering their education. And I always remind them that the work that they do is so critical. Childcare is often thought of as just, oh, I have to take my kid to childcare. It's not that big of a deal, but it is. It's an economic stability for our communities, especially if you cannot find childcare for your child, then you can't show up to work that day, and then all of a sudden the line at the bank is long because you can't show up to your job at the bank that day. That affects us all. Even if you don't have children, it affects us. And it's so important that we keep families and children at the forefront of the decisions we make as government officials. And I just really want to uplift our providers, and I don't know if any are tuning in. Sometimes they do. They shock me. But I always like to publicly thank childcare providers for the critical work that they do for our families and children. Next slide, please. I always like to break down where the childcare providers are in the centers and the homes in your districts. So it's all broken down by District 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. As you can see, District 3 has no license exempt centers. That's not something that's completely alarming. License exempt centers are usually after school programs that are like ELOP or kind of like the after school program that ACRA had before that had ended. So that's kind of what a license exempt center is. For District 1, you do have the most family childcare homes, so that's a very interesting point. I won't go down the list of each one, but as you can see, there are a breakdown of each of your districts and where they're at. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, the Resource Connection has been around for 45 years. We have received so much support from the community, and we have supported the community in return. And these are just bullet points of some of the things that we do. We recently had a very successful first aid CPR workshop at our office. Our office is centrally located between the two counties in McCallum Hill. It's very hard to find a centralized location for all the way down in Ione to all the way up in Arnold. So it's very difficult to find that centralized location, but that's where we are. If you're ever curious or want to learn more about us or just come visit us, we wholeheartedly welcome that. I would encourage you to do so. We've had some officials from Calaveras show up and have a tour of our office, and they're amazed at the consumable closet and the lending library with the 5,000 items. And if you're lucky, you'll have some kids come in at the same time and scream, "I love this place," which we love to hear that. I always like to point out we have the annual Celebrate Our Children Festival. This year, we are hosting it. It is the 28th annual. I'm not sure if some of you have heard of it, but it has been around for some time. And it's going to be at the Italian Picnic Grounds this year, a very centralized location for Amador County families to come and enjoy a free day. We provide lunch. We have fire departments come out. Jackson PD always cooks hot dogs for the families. And it's just a free day of play. The kiddos get to have some fun and play with the various activities brought. We're trying to get a petting zoo this year. We have a magician, so many fun things. Families can come learn about the good resources that are available, from us to healthcare to anything you could think of. We have nonprofits and organizations tabling to provide good resources. Next slide, please. Could you go back one? Thank you. So how can you support us? Why are we here? So I have taken a road trip across Amador and Calaveras counties, is what I like to call it, because the Resource Connections work is so critical to our families and children. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind. When you're up here, when you're out in the community, I appreciate the work that you guys do. Just support families, support children, support your local child care centers and providers. Like I said, come visit our office, learn more about us and the people that we serve. Get to hear some of your providers and your district stories and connect with them on that level. It's such a beautiful thing. I've heard such amazing stories from our providers. Attend your local child care council meetings or connect with them. I'm sure you have heard of the Amador Child Care Council. Jenny is here this morning. So if you have questions about the Child Care Council, reach out to me or Jenny or Karen, and we can connect you with that. It's a very important LPC, and the work that they do is very much behind the scenes, I would say. And just prioritize child care centers and providers when you're looking at your general plan and your ordinances and your housing elements. And make sure that the ordinances and the things that you're crafting and the way that you're governing our county, just make sure that it's friendly for families and children and providers, and that that's always a thought in mind on how those people will be impacted. Next slide, please. And I just, again, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it, and I am not used to speaking to boards. I'm usually used to just sitting in the peanut gallery is what I like to call it. So if you have any questions, we'll gladly take them.
Any questions?
I just had a comment. I just texted my wife while you were talking, and I said, "Is the resource connection good?" And I got 3 texts. Yes, very much needed. So
Thank you.
there you go.
Thank you.
Mia, we had you on the Jackson Rotary. Were you going to make a presentation and where wires got crossed or canceled or something?
Yes, I will be seeing you in March.
Good, okay, you got you back. Is this the presentation?
Yes, so you'll be hearing from us again.
Okay.
You'll be sick of us.
Darn the bad luck. Any?
Well,
Thank you, guys.
I have to say, my mom was way ahead of her time. She had all kinds of children parties. We had the gather cattle party. We had the cut wood, load wood, carry wood party. We had the fix fence party. We had the patch pothole party, work and garden party, do the dishes party, which I tried real hard to avoid, but we had all kinds of childcare celebrations.
I had those same parties. Weeding party. That was her favorite.
I forgot that one, yeah.
My daughter is 16, and I live down the hill in Harold. So her school district, they take this week off it's a mental health week.
For what?
Mental health. So her father is giving her a moving cattle, bucking hay, cleaning the barn party today. When I left, they were loading up the trailer, so I completely
Actually,
understand that.
It's probably, those activities are good for mental health.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you.
I mean, I think we were good little workers, but hey, we loved it. It was just fun. It was enjoyable. You're doing something. Sometimes it was, you ever see little kids, oh, I can pick that up when they probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, kids like doing stuff.
In early childhood, we call that heavy work. And it's actually up and coming. It's a very big thing right now, and it's literally children moving, pushing, pulling, distributing weight, and it's supposed to help regulate their bodies.
You ever try to follow a kid around and do what they do? They'll wear you out.
I was a family child care provider for 10 years, so I completely understand this work and working with children at that.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
thank you.
anybody from the public? Anybody on Zoom?
Not at this time.
Cool. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, board.
guys.
See you in March.
Yes.
Okay, 3C, record keeping, RFP 2025. 25, excuse me. Recommendation of the Board of Supervisors for a 457 and 401 plan recording.
I'm going to set the table here. This comes about after a long series of conversations that we've had between me and the auditor and HR about the record-keeping services, the folks who maintain our 457 plans and the 401A, which is the investment that our employees make when they withhold money to invest, and then the board matches that. So the match goes into the 401A account, and their investment goes in the 457 account. But talking with Tacey, one thing that we have been concerned about is the county's obligation to provide the best services for this record keeper at the lowest price. So currently, the employees have been paying 1% a year on their assets for this maintenance.
Did you say 1%?
1%, yes. So what we did was we hired Multnomah to consult with us and take a look at what we've been offering and see where we could make improvements. So we've gone out to an RFP to get results or get proposals back from record keepers. And how many did we have? We had six responses. Takes anything you want to add, please feel free. So we had 6. We whittled that down to 2. 2 gave us a longer presentation each, and ultimately we've chosen Nationwide as the provider. They have proposed to bring that 1% down to 0.29%, as well as provide many services to the employees that we believe are much improved over what we've been offering. So to our recommendation to you is to go forward with Nationwide as our provider. So Daisy, anything you want to?
Oh, good, there, it's on. So again, this is, it's separate. We're not getting rid of our CalPERS 457 plan. It's our 2 457 plans that are now that are currently with Empower and our 401A plan. And also just to note, Empower missed the boat and they did not submit a bid. So they could not even be considered, you know, if for them, they didn't even put in an offer to lower prices or anything. So we're making a change. It's a good change. We have people from Nationwide. They've really had great reputation on being very hands-on. They have offered to come and have a day at the sheriff's office. They've offered to come and sit with public works crews. It's very people first. They also have the technology. If people, you know, folks are savvy and want to go online and use investment tools, retire planning tools, they have all that too. But we feel like they're a great fit for us, and we really needed to save employees money, put money back in their pockets and their investments for their retirement.
You know, a question, it looks like not only is the fees are less, but the current plan, there's like a $25 fee too, on top of the 1%, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then also, it looks like there's transaction fees. Nationwide has a lot less transaction fees.
Yes,
Better deal.
it is.
The power of competition.
Yes, and we had the, you know, the backing of the unions. We had Multnomah come out and talk about our situation, and all employees were invited. Got really good feedback, and the unions supported us going forward with the RFP, and so.
In your opinion, why is there such a disparity between the two? I mean, that's a pretty dramatic 0.29 versus 1%.
It is.
And better service.
And Nationwide and one of the other finalists, their prices were more competitive, but some of the others were, you know, not as close. I think that when you don't know there's a problem, and then you find out there's a problem, then we have to address that problem. So
they're
that's
just
what we
counting
did.
on entities never looking at this.
Correct. And so Multnomah has helped us, you know, with our fiduciary responsibilities to our people in our plans and to the county, but people come first. And so there's a problem, and it was not brought up by anyone else. And we wanted to do the best we could to fix it, make it better.
And is this kind of, as I recall in the past, there's different investment vehicles you can choose as far as on these
Sure.
plans?
There are, and one of the goals of consolidating our plans, whether or not it would have been with Empower or not, is we have way too many options, and we need to narrow down those options and do a better job. At this point, Multnomah will be helping us to map certain investment types into new funds, because our plan was very chaotic. it should have it needs to have a certain breadth of different types of investments, but not multiple choices of the same type. Yeah.
So
Without
they'll have a
getting into-
dividend type and a growth,
Yes,
instead of like Baskin's 31 flavors. Ask somebody to name more than about 4 of them. They can't do it. They don't know.
yes. And then just multiples of the same type of fund.
Yeah.
So we have some cleanup to do. It will be, if you approve our recommendation, we'll be doing pretty soon a quick reach out to employees and then working with Multnomah on the remaining of educating employees and what the next steps will be, what they can expect and timing. But
How long do you think this will take to merge everything?
I think, did they say about 12 to 16 weeks?
Okay.
And the returns are relatively the same.
Yes, and
Performance
actually,
returns.
yes, and one of the things we'll watch out for that happened with Empower, honestly, it happens with PERS too, is trying to avoid their proprietary funds, which are funds that the companies make money on if you buy their investments. So
They don't push those, do they?
Dirty.
well, no comment. But I think overall, it's good. The counties, this really brings us into really being diligent and being watch guards of our people and their investments.
Okay.
Okay, anything else from supervisors? Okay, anybody from the public? Since there's nobody out there. Anybody on Zoom?
Not at this time.
Okay,
I'd make a motion to approve the recommendations 1 through 3.
okay. Motion by Supervisor Neto, second by Supervisor Crew. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies.
Award-winning auditor.
Okay, we're on to review and possible approval of January 27 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Any changes?
Wait, don't we have a 4?
What's that?
Don't we have one more? Oh, sorry.
It's 3E now.
Oh, it's next, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm still new here.
You're gonna have to you have to speed up. You're gonna be in the middle of this.
Oh, no.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Yes, I
Okay,
so moved.
Second.
call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're on to 3E, California Clean. Supervisor Netter, you brought this before us?
Yeah, what this is, it's basically, there's some activities you can do and you can get certified as being a clean California community. Doesn't hurt to be a clean community. I think a lot of the things that are required, we probably already do, looking at the list. And I think what it may do is it might also, you can get some plants, some help with doing some landscaping. But also, I think it may be a way to, if you're applying for some grants, it might be helpful to have that designation.
Well, Clean California was the outfit that helped us at the Veterans Hall. They
Yeah.
did that with the Master Gardeners. So we had both of those entities working
Yeah.
there for last year.
And would it help with tourism? Maybe a little, probably not a lot, but can't hurt. I don't see a real big expense to this. I don't really see a downside. I'm not sure what the upside is, to be quite honest. I think keeping your community clean is an upside.
The only question I have is that who would we have to run command and control on this?
Maybe go to general services, maybe a staff member. I don't think, talking to the staff there at Keep California Clean, it didn't sound too onerous. I think they're willing to work with the county, and I could like to see us get that designation. And I don't believe it's going to be an ongoing sticky baby.
Because I was talking with Craig Barak last night, during my D3CC meeting, and of course, they do a couple cleanup days for the Foothill Conservancy. So I don't know if that could be counted, as part of this. They do a lot along the McCalmy and then other areas.
Native Sons do them too, you know.
Right. So I'm wondering
I
if we
think
can
meet
kind of
that criteria.
merge those together.
So there's 10 of the criteria that we need to commit to, of these 15 that are in the, on the list. And I don't know which ones we wanted to focus on, as we know, because there's a lot of them that do seem like they'll take a lot of time and for staff.
Yeah, I was looking at some of them just the other night. And community input through a public meeting, a survey, special event, or some other means. I mean, could you have something on the county's website where people could put input? I think that'd be possible. I don't think that'd be too hard to do. Hold regular community cleanups. We already have those through like ACES, I would think. And place anti-litter infrastructure. I mean, we've got that in this building already. And planting trees, gardens, or flower beds, or creative public art. I mean, hey, we could probably plant some trees. I think around the county, maybe even around this facility, plant a few trees. I don't think they're looking for thousands of trees. And you might find, I think also it's probably, I think they'll help you with that, kind of like they did up at Pioneer Park. And also they helped out over, they provided plants and stuff for the Plymouth Veterans Park. And they planted quite a few trees there. And they provided a lot of the trees for that. There's, schedule host collection drives are hard to recycle items. I think we already have that through ACES or Republic, don't we? As far as like electrical cleanup for items. Engage 5 local business partners to support your campaign. I think if you get 5 businesses say, hey, yeah, we'll sign that line, we support you. There's no dollars, no time. I think it's pretty simple to do. Provide cigarette receptacles. I think there's some right out front. So I think they would, I think this program they have is about to sunset. I think they're looking for communities to come on board and they'll help you all they can. I don't think it's going to be an onerous task, but maybe the board or the CAO does, so.
Chuck, you have your concerns. Should we run this by the staff that's going to have to do some of these things before?
Whatever pleasure of the board. I'm not fighting against it, but it will take resources. And as always, it's.
Maybe we should ask the resources.
We could take it to committee if we wanted to do that, or create a committee. That's one of the things that is a start. We could create the committee and then talk about it with staff and find out which one of these 10 that we really want to focus on. Some of them are low-hanging fruit and some of them are not.
So are we saying we could look at this in 2 weeks and have an idea of what this would,
We can do that and report back here if you'd like to do that.
That'd be fine.
just so we can pick out our 10 and see if we can absorb our 10?
Yeah, I'm not looking to dump a whole lot of effort and time on staff. That's not my intent. And if it looks like it's there, I'll vote against it.
Don't want to surprise them.
Yeah.
And there's no catch to this? Once you're a clean California community, there's nothing that comes down the pipe later?
Not that I've heard of, no. No.
Yeah, I'd like 2 weeks to just check that.
I'm
I
fine with
think I
that.
was looking through the list again, and I mean, I think we probably check off 7 boxes already. I mean, part of it is like, I mean, like the cigarettes is pretty low hanging fruit. We already have operations in our county that goes out and does that type of thing already with that. Community cleanups, there's a number of bodies that do that. We'd just be collecting the data on that, maybe encouraging a few more.
Yeah, because I know the master gardeners have, like, again, the Pioneer Park, they want to clean up around the library, so they're trying to work at that too this spring.
It might be a vehicle for them to plant more trees too, maybe another public support opportunity there. It's we need to engage 4 businesses, that might be a little bit challenging, but there might be a few businesses out there that are
Well,
interested.
that would be our Chamber of Commerce.
It would be, I'm on that board, I will encourage some of our larger operations around here to clean up as well.
Is it solely Caltrans that adopts sections of highway?
No, we have, actually have a program to adopt.
We do.
Yeah, but it needs to be revised. Right now, it's comes at a cost to Public Works, and we need to avoid that. So,
What's that program called, do you know?
it's just an Adopt a Highway program that we've got. I was talking to Jeff about it the other day. We need to bring it back with some proposed changes.
Yeah, Upper Ridge Road needs to be adopted by somebody who can advertise their name by picking up garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had,
Bill Mays Road.
I was gonna say that.
There's Bill Mays on Upper Ridge.
yeah, I've had a couple people talk to me about the Upper Ridge Road too. And the biggest thing is to be able to pick a day and shut it down and allow people to just walk along the road, because it's virtually impossible to do with traffic on it.
It is very difficult and borderline unsafe. So
Right.
yeah, that's the challenge to many of these 2-lane roads.
Also,
Okay, so
Bring it
instead
back.
of a committee, we're talking about bringing it back in 2 weeks
That's
with
fine.
Glenn's thought process?
Yep, we'll
Do we need 2 or 4?
2 weeks.
I mean, this coming meeting or the meeting after
I
that?
think 2 weeks is fine.
2 weeks, fine, okay. So we'll bring this on 3E back. So now we have public hearing at 10:30, so until 10:30, we are on break. Okay, we're reconvening the Board of Supervisors. We're on to public hearing, 4A, Planning Department, consideration of Planning Commission's recommendation to approve a variance from 25 feet yard setback requirement to allow construction of detached garage, 12.5 feet from the property line.
Good morning, Nicole Shepard with the Planning Department.
Morning.
Good morning.
The applicant has requested the variance to be able to build a detached garage within the front setback. The project was reviewed by the Technical Advisory Committee, who reviewed the project and forwarded the project to the Planning Commission with no technical objections with the project as proposed. The Planning Commission then reviewed the project during its regular meeting on January 13th, 2026, and recommended approval of the project along with the CEQA exemption and the findings included in the staff report.
And this is an opening of the public hearing. So anything from the supervisors?
Nope, I mean, out there, it's pretty rural area. Looking at it, it makes sense what they want to do, why they need to do it. I mean, it's the best location, and I don't think it's really bothering the neighbors looking at it. I don't see a problem with it.
Okay. Anything for the public?
Larry White, representing the Mays. Just one comment. It did get approval from the homeowners association prior to taking it to the planning commission for approval.
Okay.
So there were no neighbors' objections, nothing, so it went clear through that. We went through that process prior to submitting it to the county. So
Okay. Thank you.
if anybody has any questions for me,
Looks good, yeah.
sit down and shut up. Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
You said it.
Anybody on Zoom?
Not at this time.
Okay, I'd like a motion to close the public hearing.
Close the public hearing.
Second.
I heard Supervisor Cornell first.
Second.
Oh, I mean,
Okay,
I mean,
we're all good.
he was first on the second, I'm sorry.
Okay.
You were the first on the first. Okay. Call for the vote. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, back to the board for discussion. Anything that we,
Ready to go.
Pretty ministerial.
okay, so do I have a motion?
I'd make a motion to approve the variance and also that it meets the adequacy of the CEQA and findings 1 through 5.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second. Group.
I'll still Supervisor Cornell first. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We're opening a public hearing on the Planning Commission's, the Planning Commission, Board of Supervisors considering of the Planning Commission's recommendation to approve amendments to the County Code, Section 19.08 definitions, and to establish regulations for the right of conditional agritourism to be used in A, AG, and R1A.
Good morning. This is
Morning.
Krista with the Planning Department. So I guess a brief background is this discussion did start in 2019 with the Ag Advisory Committee, basically looking at the expansion of agritourism uses for agriculture producers within the AG district, so under the contract. This discussion expanded to potentially include the parcels and property owners that are located in the R1A and the A districts, and that those discussions took place in earlier last year. So I guess the most recent discussion was from the Planning Commission, and they reviewed this ordinance that is discussing the expansion of agritourism uses for agricultural producers other than wineries primarily. So that would be for small scale farms, other uses that are like, I guess, breweries, people who just have like animals and want to be able to expand these uses to bring in additional money because it's kind of hard these days for everyone. So the agritourism uses have been listed, and this was a description that was developed from the Ag Advisory Committee that includes hay rides, wagon rides, pony rides, farm stays. There was some discussion about the overnight aspect of farm stays, just general kind of barn tours, U-pick operations, farmers markets, on-site retail for agricultural products that are produced on-site that aren't wine, other kind of events such as roping, horse shows, rodeos, things that are just associated in general with the agriculture industry, demonstration farms and gardens, and then the definition is it does include other agritourism uses as determined by the Planning Commission. So that does allow for case-by-case evaluation if someone comes up with an idea that's not on the list. So another recommendation from the Ag Advisory Committee was that there be kind of more precise recommendations and requirements for uses that would require a use permit. So these would be specific for people that are applying for a use permit in these zoning districts for agritourism that is going to assist in staff and the Planning Commission's evaluation of those uses and if they really do qualify for agritourism and the environmental effects and potential impacts to neighbors with those case-by-case situations. The code itself that's before you today, it includes several different elements. The first one is that addition of the agritourism definition. And then there's some amendments of section 19.24.036. And that's for the Williamson Act, increases of agritourism uses. Never mind. That's so the 19.24.2036 G9 is specific to single-family residences currently are restricted to immediate family members or employees of the property owner. And that's kind of just an antiquated, not really enforceable code. So this is proposing to remove that from that section. Sorry about that. The other elements in this proposed ordinance include 19.24.036 G and I, and that's for agritourism uses within the AG district. And then it does include differences for by right versus conditional, which would require a use permit and review by the Planning Commission. 19.24.045 C and D is the same, but for the R1A district, including that difference between the by right and conditional uses. And then 19.24.037 is proposed for the A district regulations. And I guess one factor in that I just want to call special attention to is currently the A district is included under 19.24.040. And as everyone's aware, our code, it's split in formatting between a table and the enumerated list. So this would be removing the A district from that table and basically having it included under its own section, so 037. So it's consistent with the other agriculture zones as far as the formatting of that code. But yeah, and then it also, of course, includes the delineation of agritourism uses and the by right and conditional uses separated there. The Planning Commission did review this in December of last year and in January of this year, and then recommended approval of the amendments along with the findings included in the staff report. I did want to also note that included is a list of general plan consistency findings, and those weren't included in the staff report, but I would recommend, if you guys do choose to approve the ordinance, to include those general plan consistency findings as well with the findings included in the staff report. I guess one other thing to note, I did just speak with County Council, and they wanted to call attention to the proposed ordinance. It's on page 132 under section, sorry, sec. Well, G, but of a specific.
26.
Sorry, I want to make sure it's in the record as the correct one. So it's under the 19.24.037 section, and then it would be under 26G. And we just wanted to make sure that it does so it says in subsection 27, but that would actually be subsection 26. So I would recommend that change as well if you guys do choose to go forward. And it's just to make sure that it references back to the correct section there. So I guess if you have any questions, I'm here, but other than that.
One of the questions that I had as we're talking about all this is it parking. You know, we've always had the parking problem with the wineries, you know, as, you know, not sitting against the property line. And, you know, I didn't really see anything where we're kind of talking about the parking of vehicles on the property. And then the other kind of question I had is the warming fires, if we're having the overnight stays, can we make sure that the landowner is know that he's liable for any runaway fires? Yeah,
I mean, you guys can definitely include that in the proposed ordinance. I would say, I know that under the use permit application recommendations from the Ag Advisory Committee, they want to see in the application duration and frequency of the events, impacts of traffic, commercial encroachments, and roadways, which would address that parking accommodations, signage and advertising, farmland classification, and maximum guests. I mean, it would be very easy to incorporate, I guess, if they are going to allow fires, and if so, just, I don't know if it would be.
And that's what I'm saying.
Release of liability that would be required as part of the application for the guest to sign, I guess, or something like that. That could be incorporated. But again, that's just for the conditional uses, for ones that would require use permits. I believe it's, as it's separated in the code, there is a number of people that determines whether or not it would require a use permit or not, or if it's included in those by right uses.
Chuck Beatty with the Planning Department. The use, the overnight stays that would allow or could potentially allow warming fires would require a use permit, because otherwise the farm stays are restricted to the houses, single-family homes that are on the property currently. So if they were going to incorporate some kind of RV park or camping or whatever, then that's going to require a use permit regardless of the number of overnight accommodations they provide. Then the use permit can restrict the outdoor fires.
And with that, you know, like, you know, we have R1As, you know, we have small, you know, 3-acre R1As. So do they have, I mean, do they have to have a, you know, whether they have to have a 1-acre farm, you know, on a 2-acre property, or how is that supposed to work?
We did have a discussion about minimum size, and there were people at the Planning Commission that were like, well, I don't have 40 acres, I've got 5, but I've got a farm, and I don't want to be left out of this just because of parcel size. So they didn't include one. But in order to incorporate those uses into their property, there has to be some bona fide agricultural use there that would qualify.
And it's not just your home sitting on a section of property.
You know, one row of, I don't want to say grapes anymore, but almond, or, you know, a couple of apple trees that's not going to qualify.
Okay.
You know, one question I have, would be page 123 under amend section 19.24045C, adding agritourism permitted in the R1A district without a use permit being required. Under heading 6, arena events, roping, horse shows, rodeos, herding competitions. I would wonder if there shouldn't be an acreage or a setback on that.
Which section? Sorry, can you repeat the section?
Oh, page 123.
Mine doesn't have pages.
Okay, how about
Page numbers?
maybe,
It's section 14.
it would have been, it's amend section 19.24.045C.
Okay.
Kind of, it's about, it's only 1 or 2 pages in.
Okay. 45C. All right, I got it. Okay, so the definition of agritourism. Okay. And then which one You said the
Six.
arena events specifically?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm looking at there is if you have somebody that has a few acres and they want to have a arena or horse show or something like that, you probably have a lot of dust and stuff like that. I think it could be a problem. If everybody was respectful of their neighbor, it wouldn't be a problem, but not everybody is.
The easy answer there, because it's the same with other, well, it's been the same with winery uses in R1A, is to require the use permit for R1A without expanding the by right uses.
This says, by adding agritourism permit to R1A district without a use permit being required.
Right.
Right.
That was the recommendation of the planning commission. If you want to correct that issue that you're concerned about, you could just simply make all of those conditional uses in R1A require the use permit, which is the way that all the event type uses related to wineries have been done in R1A in the past. They've all required a use permit. There were no by right uses. You could make wine, you just couldn't have events or tasting room without a use permit.
You could also include minimum setbacks or minimum lot sizes. I mean, all of that could be incorporated too. And then if it falls out of that categorization, it would just end up requiring a discretionary permit. That's also an option. So you guys can include more specific limitations for those by right uses, if that is what you guys think.
Wouldn't it be simpler just to have a use permit in R1A that anyone applies for an agri?
It would be consistent with what we've done in
Yeah, that's what I thought.
forever in the past.
What's it cost to get a use permit roughly?
It'd be probably around 2,000 for application fees to us, and then of course there's the fees to the state. It's like 3,000 currently, and that goes up every year, as well as our fees. But I mean, I know that is one of the concerns that residents come in when they have that these desires for their property, because a lot of them are wanting these expansion of uses because they're struggling.
Is that annually, or is that just a one-time?
It's a one-time, yeah, and it covers the environmental review and all the public noticing and hearings that are required for the case-by-case review of a conditional use permit.
Are we trying to legislate something that might go wrong? I mean, could we amend it if it becomes a problem, as opposed to making people pay $3,000 in 6 months of government paperwork to have a
Absolutely.
horse
I
show?
always feel like I need to say that before we have any of the hearings on these ordinance amendments. It's not in stone. You can always, as it has happened, 2 weeks later, make an amendment if you want to.
Supervisor Epperson?
Yeah, good. Like a couple questions. So right now, currently, I went on the HIP camp app, just looking around. There's a few places already advertised on there. Are they already paying TOT, or are they paying anything to the county already? Or, I mean, I was just kind of curious if that's already happening. 'Cause I know, like, with the other TOT, with like the Airbnb and the VRBOs, they basically, it's already part of the app, that fee's in there, built in already. And it just goes right to the county. The app actually pays to the county that way, I believe.
Yeah, Airbnb does
Yeah.
do that.
Verbo.
We get that directly
Yeah.
through them. But if there's any overnight lodging, they're supposed to register with the tax collector.
I was just curious if we're getting anything from them now currently. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You'd have to ask the tax
That's fine.
office.
And I
But
wouldn't-
If they're registered and.
there also is the chance that some of them are
I guess a
not in
question,
compliance necessarily.
sorry. I thought you were-
Go ahead.
A question I just want to make sure, I want to make sure it's correct. So if we allowed these uses and we started having problems, we could say, hey, that's no longer permitted, done.
Possibly
Tougher.
not.
That's tougher.
It depends, because this is in the zoning code. So if you give this as a by right use and my neighbor starts it, I don't think you can come back later and take it away.
Right.
If they haven't started it, you could say, no, you need a use permit. But if your neighbor is engaging in one of these by right uses, it's much harder to take away.
And I did want.
Reason I was asking, it says, the heading, by adding agritourism permitted in the R1A district without a use permit being required. That's not saying it's by right use, but is it?
It is, yeah.
Basically, it is it?
Yep.
Okay.
We could have a R1A needs a use permit, but there's a waiver procedure on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, you've always got the
Look at
authority to
the-
waive that if you.
Instead of
desire.
approving them all and then trying to figure it out afterwards. Look at the other end of the telescope and make it, are gonna need one, and then if it happens to be something, we had this same conversation, remember, when people, home bakeries
Yeah.
and parking and all those issues came up. And I think we did end up you had to have a conditional use permit. So, if we've been doing that for everybody else, I think we should stay consistent.
And with the micro kitchens, you put a limit on the number that were allowed countywide.
Yeah,
And right now, it's 4 or 6, something like it's a really low number.
they kinda went away, didn't they?
I don't know. But if they're in existence and and all of those licenses are used and nobody knows about it, then nobody's complaining about it.
Right, okay.
I also had one more comment too, from the environmental standpoint. So if you guys do end up wanting to, restrict it further, I just want to let you know that if you end up wanting to expand it later, and like if everyone's, complaining it's too restrictive or something, that does end up being more of an environmental review. So that does complicate things because right now we're tightening down the code and that, doesn't introduce any environmental factors, but once it's tightened down, if you wanted to expand it, we would have to evaluate all of those expanded uses all over again when they've already been accounted for in the current code. So it's just something to be aware of.
I guess a question I'd have, almost like what Pat was saying, maybe along the same line, is there a way we could license it or allow it without having to go through a use permit? And if there's problems, if they can't rectify those problems, you could yank that permit?
I mean, that's kind of what is with the use permits, but the issue with that is enforcement
Expense.
capability, and we don't have the staff to really keep track of licenses necessarily, if that, we're supposed to go and inspect on a certain specified time basis kind of thing. So, I mean, that's something to consider, I mean, but the way that use permits are, they're complaint driven, so if someone is found to be in violation of their use permit, they could be, that use permit could be revoked if they don't come into compliance.
The hybrid option there is a staff-issued use permit, which could, that's easier to revoke than doing a code enforcement.
So you could have a staff-issued use permit, which could be revoked fairly simply, and it wouldn't be expensive for the person trying to do their operation.
Correct.
What's the time and cost for a staff issued?
Cost is, it's what?
It's 125,
125
and it's a
right now.
one-time permit, and then the turnover time for us to review it, and we do send out public notices to the surrounding property owners, and we say it's usually 2 weeks. And then, of course, if it's appealed or the decision is appealed, then it takes longer, but.
2 weeks and $125, not the 3,000 in 6 months.
Yeah.
I was reading on it, so down on 167 that says with not more than average, it's talking about trips in and out of the property to be determined. Has that been determined, or? It's on it's 167. It was just talking about vehicle trips per guest. And I was also curious, have we had any complaints regarding the number of people in and out of properties that are already kind of doing this on the side anyway? Just out of curiosity.
We have very few complaints about any events on ag uses, and when we do, it's when, the event just gets overloaded.
Right,
They don't have a use
Like
permit to
Daffodil
deal
Hill.
with that, and.
Right,
But it's
exactly,
like
yeah.
that one
That
day,
was
and then it's
my
over
thought.
with.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's not frequent, it's not something that's like a weekly issue.
Right, okay. And then the camping, is that largely, especially on Williamson land, is that largely thought to be like dry camping? Like there's no amenities there, it's just you just pull up and camp, that kind of thing, and they provide an outhouse or something or other?
I mean, they could, if it's with a use permit, they could go as far as to have, amenities available if the land supports it.
Okay. My thought there too is with the warming fires and things, I don't want to, it would be, I don't make it the law, but it'd be nice to have a list of things that you might want to think about. Fire suppression, some kind of water there or something if something does get going, and then the process to get help, that kind of thing. I don't know, there's just a.
When that comes up in the use permit process, we've always had AFPD saying, well, a condition's going to be, you're going to have us staffed there overnight.
Oh, wow.
And that issue goes away real quick.
Okay.
Okay, no fires at all.
Yeah.
We'll do it without any fires.
I mean, we don't want to, I always want to stifle business. We want to be able to people keep their property and enjoy it thoroughly and share it with others as well. It's just, how's it going to impact everybody in the neighborhood?
Well, and conditions like that can be included in the ministerial over-the-counter permits as well, because I know, like, for our home occupation use permit, we ask them, how many people are going to be involved, are there going to be signs, are people coming to the property to pick things up, and then they just let us know, and then if that were to be triggered, then there could be additional requirements.
I mean,
It just has to apply unilaterally for everyone applying.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I just know people come out, and they don't know what in the world's up and down, and they just do things that are dumb and don't realize how dangerous or how dumb it can be. And that's just informing them of their risk, I guess. It's called freedom. Yeah, you're free to.
Supervisor Neto, but to use the guy builds an arena that has horse shows for roping on Wednesday nights, say, and he doesn't keep the dust down, the neighbors complain.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be the guy who wants to go out there and tell him there's no more of that, and we have to take his horse arena down? So we'd be better off if we get ahead of it. Because you're right, you could take care of your neighbors, but it doesn't happen sometimes.
You know, as that is, you know, the conversation is, you know, simple dust control, you know, because, you know, I've been down to Rancho Marietta numerous times, and they have water trucks, you know, doing their rounds out there. That's just common.
Part of the game, yeah.
Yeah, that's just common operation.
No, I agree, Pat, you want to be ahead of it, but I mean, are you, I think a staff issue use permit, I think they could say, hey, what about dust, what about this? And they're going to have that conversation. And the problem is you have little, what I see is you got little micro businesses. Maybe if somebody's doing a demonstration garden or agriculture education opportunities, it's nice. They don't have to pay probably some of any money. It would be nice in a perfect world. But then you have maybe like somebody wants to go do an arena or a horse show. That can get to be fairly large, could be a problem. So on one hand, you want something simple so people can just do it without a lot of cost. On the other hand, maybe the you could do the full-blown permitting process with you know the cost, but that's what I'm looking at. One you got a real small, there's not much there, and one you have is a pretty major item. And the problem is I have with doing them all by right is once you give them that right, and they're going to be a stinker neighbor, it's over. So people have to live with somebody who's saying, I don't care about you, and it does happen. Like we've had I think somebody raising pigs up country around Volcano that really doesn't care about his neighbors, and it's been kind of a, for lack of a better term, it's been a shit show up there, literally. So that's why I'd like to have I'd like to do it to where it's not too expensive on the people that are trying to have a little small business. But you have a way where if something really goes wrong, maybe somebody's got to go out and tell that guy at the arena, which would be hard because he's probably spent some money and time doing it. You either got to get better or you're out of here.
And keep in mind that if they're planning on having more than 25 people, that's going to trigger the larger use permit process anyway. So these staff-issued ones would be just up to 25 people.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, somebody might have 50 or 100 people out there. If nobody cares and the county doesn't care, it wouldn't be an issue. But if somebody cares, then it is an issue.
Anything else from the supervisors? Okay, to the public?
Sherry Curtis, Amador Pines area, property in our ag that we have. Unfortunately, when this all was discussed recently, it was during the holidays. We, in those zones, were not notified at all that this type of uses could be next door to us. So I think there's a number of questions that need to be at least understood before you adopt today, that maybe you could consider putting this over so those that are in those zones would have a chance to really understand what's happening here. Like, who's going to be in charge of saying, oh, that property made enough money that they can qualify under this ordinance? Who's going to be in charge for the fire issues. We have where we are now trying to get a decent zone or fire ordinance for vacant lots. And you just want to say, oh, be a good neighbor. Unfortunately, we have hard times doing our own properties. Every property owner needs to maintain their property for fire clearance. It's not just for the zoning for 500 feet clearance. It's for fire issues, period, because fires are getting more prevalent, burning faster and harder. So I just feel like, who's going to be managing the fire issues? Is it going to be Public Works under 1530 for fire width roads, turnouts, driveways, or will the fire department be in charge of their fire requirements? There's just too many questions here that aren't answered of who's going to monitor all of this, who's going to do all the inspections. I just think we need more time. I'm not against having pony rides and things like that, but I am very concerned when you have campfires. How many are going to be allowed? How many campsites are having them? And where are they compared? Are they next to a vacant lot that has done nothing to clean up any fire around the outer part of their properties that abut somebody who's worked hard to keep their properties fire safe? I'm just pleading with you. It's trying to even understand how to find the issues in the way it's under code such and such. You know, it's mixed up and it's not clear. So I just found out about this last night and I went, oh, wow, this is not good.
You know, question, Sherry, I maybe didn't hear you right, but I wasn't sure. I thought you said money to qualify?
Yeah. According to the state, they have a certain, to be a ag property that qualifies under the state law, they had to earn enough money.
Oh, you're talking like Williamson Act then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's not just the Williamson Act. They had a certain amount that qualified them to come under this ordinance. So I just think everybody needs to really read this carefully and go into some of those issues. Because it wasn't that everybody had the right. They had to produce a certain amount of earning.
That's in the Williamson Act to qualify to get a Williamson Act contract, but
Yeah, but it's not just that contract.
I'm not sure what you're talking about. I think it is Williamson
Okay,
Act.
well, I read it in
Okay,
the packet today. So.
okay.
Anyway, I just am not pleased that there is not enough people who understand this. I wouldn't be happy if I can't get my neighbor who does nothing on their property and all of a sudden they're going to have campsites there.
Well, they have to, yeah, as the planning commission said, they have to have some type of agricultural event there first, not just your property. That's what I was trying to.
It doesn't make that clear. Yeah, they have a ag use they have to have.
They have to have an ag use.
Yes, but that's it.
That's the thing that has to start all this. It has to
Yeah.
be some type of ag use for the agritourism.
Yeah.
That's what I was, defining
Yeah.
at the beginning of the meeting.
And maybe the Tourist Council has reviewed this, but your general landowners have not had a chance to really look at this. They could have done it, I guess, over Christmas and New Year's and so forth, but it wasn't in the newspaper either. So there was no real knowledge of it. And being that we're very concerned up where we are for fire, that you can have campfires. How many acres? Is it definitive? And do we even have a low impact camping ordinance in our county? If you have one, you can do this, but do we have one?
Not that I know of.
Well, according to what I read, just skimming very fast, if you have one, you could go ahead and do this. But if you don't have one, what they're doing is trying to bring one in and do everything all at once. And that isn't giving your residents and citizens time to help review. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Jufra and Dina Kirkland from Kirkland Ranch, also representing Greg Biskey, who's out in the field somewhere. You know, I think we were either the first or one of the first, Chuck could tell you, of the ag tourism use permits. And we worked with you guys to try to establish, you know, how it was all gonna work out. It's a great permit. It's, you know, 16 pages. Unfortunately, so a lot of the stuff that's in there, we can't even get insurance for. And so we're working with Logan and Chuck and Brian to do an amendment. And it's not because we want to do it, it's because we're forced to. When we did this initial permit, our insurance for the ranch was $4,500 a year. Last year, it went up to $18,000. And this year, it's going to go up again. So, you know, then you add on to the fact that for the first time in 40 years, we couldn't sell our grapes. And it costs $3,000 an acre to farm those grapes, and you got to keep farming them. You can't just say, okay, we'll take a vacation on that and wait it out. You can't do that. So we're working with, you know, the three people that I just mentioned to amend the permit. And basically what we wanted to do was let's establish what's reasonable and what's unreasonable. Because we shouldn't have to go through the whole process over again, and that was established that we shouldn't have to. At first, they thought that would be it. Well, that I can tell you what the permit cost back then. It was $7,000. Now it's upwards of $9,000. So we don't mind, you know, paying administration fees and things like that. You know, when we first went through this, we talked about the Williamson's Act in great depth and Article 13, and I just think that we're at a time now, again, because of the things I just mentioned, that, you know, agriculture and county governments are going to have to come together and try to, you know, work our way through this. Because if you're a really big farm, you can survive. But if you're a small farm, you have to do these other things. And like I say, it's not because we want to. I don't want more work. I'm getting to the age where I want less work. But we're forced to do that to keep, you know, to keep the property. And Brian and I had a good conversation the other day, and we're both saying, at what point do you just throw in the towel and say, screw it, you know, and go to another state? Well, we're tough as boot leather, and we're not going to quit. And then Brian said the same thing. You know, we're going to evolve. We're going to figure out a way. We're not quitters. So our project that we're working with Chuck on, it's no impact. It's probably a half acre that was already excavated back in the 70s to do the truck shows there, the antique truck shows. So the biggest problem with is Fish and Game. Those guys got their hands out, man, like it's Christmas, and, you know, they're just raking it in. So, you know, their fee has gone up to $3,000. Well, what I did was, because we have a friend at Fish and Game that's in senior management, he found out the guy that's in charge of the use permits. So he sent us a nice email, and he told me, in fact, you guys can scan this if you want, but I gave a copy to Chuck, and it's a great contact because he's basically saying, hey, we want to work with you. If there's no CEQA involved, this should go smoother, you know, because that $3,000 fee, to me, it's just extortion. I mean, I know it's one of those things, but if we can get out of paying it, I want to try to do that. It's almost like a simple victory, but you know, the county pays those fees all the time too, from what I've been told. But I think this email, and Chuck can tell you if it's gonna work or not, but I think that contact and his willingness to work with people could really help everybody, even people other than us. So the reason I'm here really is because we just want to try to establish, for an amendment, I don't think you should have to start the whole process over. That's 6 months of pain. That's a lot of money. It's time. Like, we're trying to get ready for the season to break for spring. So I think Chuck said in March we should be through the process, and he's made it a lot simpler, and with Logan's help and Brian's also. So I think that because of the way things are changing, there's going to be more people trying to make amendments to their existing permit.
I think there is some truth, a lot of truth to what you're saying. I think things have changed in some of the ag lands where maybe they had historically grapes or some other operations. That's, at least presently, not super viable, if at all. And so I think a lot of people out in the rural areas on ag lands, hey, they like their ag lands, they like their rural lifestyle. And it's kind of like, what can we do to still make $1 and pay the taxes and the insurance and still stay in our ag land? And it's, so I can see, and what else I see is there's a lot of people down in the cities that they want out of the concrete jungle, if just for a weekend, and they're willing to pay for it.
Yeah, what we're doing, we're going to provide something that they can't get within a 100-mile radius of Amador County, because we're geographically located in a very unique spot. We're at the confluence of the South Fork and the Middle Fork. One of our picnic areas, from the same picnic table, you can see the Sierras and the coastal range from the same table. And then we have a pond for fishing, and we've got 3 miles of groomed trails and roads and whatnot. So we want to put in, because they were talking about lodging short-term, there's no place for the luxury RV owners to go. They don't want to be stacked on top of each other like over at the 49er. Their average age is 65 years old. Their rigs are $250,000 and up, and some of those coaches are too big to be in your average park. They can't turn them around. They don't want to be in there. So we want to put a few spots in with full service, and give them a unique experience to where it's private. It can't be seen from the road. It's 300 yards from the neighbor's house. It's in a great spot, and I think it'd be a good addition to Amador County. It would give us a little bit of a niche, and then we've brought up the whole thing in the initial use permit about the historical aspect of these permits and what we can provide that other counties may not or may not even know about. So we turned our main house into a museum, and that's of the Shenandoah Valley and the Kirkland family ranch, because Howard Kirkland's uncle, Dina's great uncle, was Walt Steiner. That's Steiner Road. So we're going to offer tours of the house to those RV people, because they want something, when they're in that price range, they want to be pampered. They want something they can't get anywhere else. They don't want to just go park, and they want to be kind of handheld. So we're going to offer guided hiking tours. We maintain 3/4 of a mile of the Arroyo Ditch for a fire break, and we had Cam Merzlach made signs that explain the history of the ditch, because a lot of people don't know it goes back to 1851. It was hand dug by Chinese and Yugoslavian immigrants. It's still there. It's unbelievable that after all those years it wasn't engineered. It was just, they just knew how to stack rock. So we're going to give tours, and then on the Middle Fork Trail, we uncovered an old stone road on the south wall of the canyon, and at the end of that road, or in the middle of it actually, there's an old stone building and a mine. So we're going to be able to give them the history of the ditch, the ranch, the valley, the mining that went on there. And we just gave a dry run to Scott Harvey, who's a real history buff, with some of his wine club members, and they had a blast, and he wants to do it more often, and I think some of the other wineries would too, because they don't have access to that. We're one of the few access points, because that was a maintenance entrance for the ditch itself. And that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that the Shenandoah Valley doesn't look like the surface of the moon, is because we have one of the few access roads that allowed Mark Cheryl to go in there with a cat when the sand fire happened. And so that's another reason we maintain all that in there, because the fire crews were able to get in there and the fire stopped at our ranch. If it would have got past us, it would have been ugly. So, because it would have just gained steam and momentum. So we can talk about the history of the sand fire, and these are all things that we're trying to incorporate into a few spots. I mean, I don't want to call it an RV park because we're only asking for 8. We're probably going to start off with 6 and see how it goes, but it's really no impact as far as CEQA goes. I don't think we're going to work that out. But if it's not, I think we can. It sounds like Fish and Game is going to waive that $3,000 fee. So for people coming after us that want to do similar things, I think this information that Chuck has is going to help possibly smooth out some of the, the addendum. I don't know about the actual use permit. You're probably going to have to go through that for that. But for addendums, I think that could help. And I think you're going to see more addendums just because, like I said, we can have a gun club there, but try getting insurance for a gun club. Probably not going to happen. So there's just things that we have to change now that we didn't think about, 6, 7 years ago when we initially did this. So I guess that's basically what I wanted to say. So,
Okay,
do you guys have any questions from us or anything?
I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is it at all possible that for low-impact camping, you could break that out of this one ordinance? Because you have everything thrown into one ordinance. Can you separate out the camping, because it involves TOT tax and everything else? Who's going to keep track of that? Or is it just the Tourism Council going to keep track of it, or is the county going to keep track? So anyway, I just want to know, can you break out so you can study the camping issues versus somebody that has a pony ride, which isn't that, they're not the same. There's a lot more fire issues and road issues. So that was my question.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe anything in this ordinance allows camping. Camping is not an allowed use. So you would need a use permit, like a regular use permit, which would bring all these issues into.
I think she saw a letter from Andrew Macon talking about it, but yeah, I didn't see anything in this.
Well, it says farm stays, so what is
Which is not camping. I clarified that. It's in a
okay, so
dwelling.
that's maybe where my misconception was on there. So farm stays would be somebody staying at the farmhouse then?
In a dwelling.
So that's in the dwelling, that's just not somebody throwing a tent out?
She's correct. The farm stay policy or farm stay law is part of the state statute, but it does require that it be within the house on the property and not camping. There is a bill that was recently passed that would allow you to allow different types of camping on ag operations, but it does require a use permit, or you can make it require a use permit, and this ordinance follows that common sense that it require a use permit to do camping.
And
Which is the amendment that we're working on with Jim.
I will say, I think in a neighboring county, there's a landowner has like maybe what they call low impact camping, or maybe has little yurts or whatever he has out there. And I guess I can't remember the numbers. I wanted to say he had like 100 spots and they're full, like continuous, but he is along a river, probably a nice area. It sounded like one hell of a business. So yeah, it's maybe something to consider down the road.
Yeah, the low-end camping is permissible if you make it permissible, and then you get to decide how you do that.
So it's not permissible with this ordinance?
Only with a use permit.
Only with a use permit. And that, as Sherry was bringing up, who is, are you working with AFPD to see that that would be you're not camping in the middle of tall, dry grass or something, or?
Right, so that application would just automatically be referred to AFPD and all potentially affected county and state agencies, get those referrals.
Okay.
I think a lot of camping RVs, is that regulated by the state, or is that regulated by, I think it's regulated by the state, I'm pretty sure. A lot of it is.
If it's on designated parkland, if it's a private operation, then that's going to fall back to us.
And that's a whole nother different ordinance, for RV,
Greg,
putting RVs on a piece of property, right?
Right, that would require a use permit.
Right.
In any case.
Greg, Ms. Curtis was asking about, if not having enough time for people to be notified about it. Could we just continue this public hearing?
Yes. Just to avoid having to renotice it. Unless you want to renotice it, you just pick a date and time certain, and you can continue the public hearing.
We do still have comment on Zoom.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
I was just getting finished with the public side. Okay.
Thank you for waiting, Mr. Bracco. Please go ahead when ready.
Good morning. Good morning. Craig Bracco, Federal Conservancy. I've been involved with this since it was first proposed to the Land Use Subcommittee at the county, and attended various public hearings, including the couple at the Planning Commission. The Federal Conservancy is supportive of this approach. The opening up of additional economic uses for our farms and ag uses help support the ag economy. It takes advantage of the natural beauty and surroundings of Amador County. It further fuels our very key industry of tourism and visitation of the county. I believe the split, the distinction between events with less than 25 people and more than 25 people is a key part of the ordinance as conceived. It allows for small, non-impactful test events or things that really won't have significant impacts and proceed without the full permitting process of a use permit. But it for larger scale events that generate significant car trips, that require special parking arrangements, that require things like security and safety issues, can all be covered under the use permit. I know there was an earlier discussion of downgrading that requirement from a full use permit in front of the reviewed by the Planning Commission. I would urge that the supervisors keep that requirement. Frankly, we're dealing with a lot of new proposals, things that haven't been done in the county before, or unique proposals. The use permit process has the flexibility to deal with unforeseen or novel impacts. Say just to pick some random examples, like the riding arena that was mentioned earlier, or hunting lodges or hunting preserve. Require additional safety requirements or review by different agencies. There's of course concerns with access for fire or other emergency vehicles if people attending events have medical emergencies. The location of these different events can be kind of key. Is the road network adequate to support the traffic? Will allow access for emergency vehicles? I think while I'm sympathetic to people that have to go through the use permit process and pay the fees that are in thousands of dollars, it does also, it's also a test of a business proposal's ability to meet guidelines, to detail what their operations are going to be. If someone can navigate the use permit process, I think we can count on them to be able to provide adequate parking, to provide adequate security. So it's all part of, I think, the test of the seriousness of applications and their ability to follow regulations and ensure safety. If someone can't spend 6 months detailing a project, defending it, if they can't spend a few $1,000s just on the application, how are they going to do all the other things that the business is going to require, the safety and insurance, as was mentioned? I think sort of a test when we're dealing with large-scale events with a good number of people, a use permit is the most appropriate process. But overall, I think.
Are you talking, Mr. Baracco, are you talking a full-blown use permit or a staff-issued use permit?
I would recommend the full the
expensive one.
Full, yes, I mean it. But in relative terms, as was just mentioned, for the insurance for the earlier proposal, a one-time fee of $5,000 is actually relatively a small cost relative to the insurance needed for the past proposal. And I would say improvements being made to the property, or even just building one simple building, are all much more expensive than a use permit. And so I would
like if somebody wants to do agricultural education opportunities or demonstration gardens, they're probably not even building any buildings, and there's probably not a whole lot of money in those things, and maybe something somebody's passionate about doing. I mean, for that example, maybe, like what Mr. Daniel DiAugustini does up in Shenandoah Valley. I think it's really a pretty neat thing what he does up there. I mean, I like it and support it. I don't see where he should have to get a full-blown use permit to do that activity.
Sure, and I think the allowing 25 people doing a farm tour with, say, 20 or 25 people, or a garden demonstration where you're teaching people how to garden, and it's a small class of, say, 20, that doesn't require a use permit. I think that is appropriate. But when these activities start to scale up larger than that, there are parking and circulation and other issues start to come into play. And not to say
I think the larger ones, the large ones we are looking to require a use permit. What I'm reading here.
That's right.
Okay.
I mean, as written, as I understand it, as written right now, these activities that involve less than 25 visitors or less do not require a use permit. It's when you go above 25 visitors is when the use permit runs.
Yes. And really, like, I guess maybe even as far as looking at it, as far as the ones without a use permit, I really don't have too much problems. Those are probably the one is I look at the arena events, roping, horse shows. That's where I see you could probably have a fair bit of impact on neighbors that might be hard to mitigate.
That one item you could just remove from the by right use. Any of those you thought were potentially too impactful for even with the 25 or less?
Could you make it where they could have to get like maybe the staff issued use permit to where, it's not too onerous, but if there were a problem, you can yank them?
You could, but I think with the staff issued use permit, they're not discretionary, so we would need criteria, we need elements. So basically it's just if you satisfy this requirement, this setback, or all of these things, then you get your use permit. So the board or staff would have to develop those criteria for the issuance of the use permit. It's not that staff has the authority to approve or not approve, like the planning commission or the board would.
Well, if you're not meeting that criteria, could you then yank that permit?
Yes, all I'm saying is the ordinance would have to develop those,
Okay.
those specific criteria that have to be met to.
I support those events. I just have a little misgiving, giving that a by right where, and if we give it a by right, once they start doing that activity, you can't say, hey, you're causing a problem, you can't do that activity anymore, correct? They'd have a by right use.
For the most part, it would be much more difficult.
You're just concerned about arenas? My daughter grew up riding every discipline of horse, whatever, and I can't think of a scenario where they weren't getting water on that ground because it's for the riders and the horses more so than the dust for the neighbors. I don't remember any time where we were making dust, but that's just my.
And to be clear too, so the permits, they're for a number of events, not just for single events, or is that, am I not right there? And the other question I had too, while you're coming up is, I mean, is 25 adequate? Should that be expanded to 50? I'm thinking about if you're gonna spend, a bunch of money in outlay, I don't know how you make money if you've only got 26 people coming.
The Land Use Committee and the Planning Commission spent a lot of time talking about that, but because we've always set by ordinance that an event is not an event unless there's at least 25 people there.
Got it.
That's where that magic number came from, because it's been in the code for so long.
All right.
Now I've already forgotten the first part of your question.
Sorry. I might have too. Probably did actually. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, I was just concerned, that number, does that serve what we're doing here, 25? Is that, I mean, I was thinking not just that, but also the size of the venue. I mean, if you got a large venue, 25 people, I mean, you got 200 acres, I don't think it's gonna matter. But if you have 50 people there, it probably still won't matter. But if you have 100 people there, maybe it matters, but I'm not sure.
And that may have had something to do with their logic on keeping it at 25.
Right, because my thought is, hearing from folks in back there that you're gonna spend a ton of money out there, you're trying to do, I know what it was, the permit, is it for one event or for multiple events, or how's that schedule out?
Well, and depending on how we end up structuring it, so if you get a staff-issued use permit for a certain type of event,
right,
that's
that event.
It could be daily.
Okay, yeah. Daily, okay, all right.
It could be.
Now, I'm just thinking about the, about
Extreme,
the person. What's that?
That's kind of an extreme example, but it could.
Yeah, right, I understand. Yeah, I want to make sure people are making money. I mean, if we're going to do agritourism, it needs to make money, and if it costs them 10 grand to get going, insurance, everything else, I mean, 26 people probably ain't going to do a whole lot.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, in our home occupation use permit, they have certain numbers of days of operation, and then that notice does go out to the surrounding property owners. So if they're concerned about the frequency that's proposed, I mean, it's objective in our application, but then they're still free to comment and appeal any decision that's made.
Okay, all right. I mean, for larger parcels, I wouldn't be opposed to raising the number of people. It's just me.
Okay, now.
Poor guy today.
So do we want to continue this?
I kind of think so.
Supervisor Epperson?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Supervisor Crew? Continue this?
Yeah, there's so many questions, I think.
Okay.
And do we need a date certain?
Okay.
Probably,
And not time certain, but date certain?
why don't we go 30 days? There's a lot.
Time and date.
What's that?
Time and date.
Time and date.
Okay.
So,
Go 30 days, or do we have to have it next meeting?
Well, Mr. New Chair, when do you want it? Do you want it next meeting or the meeting after that?
Well, I'm trying to give enough people,
I understand.
Meeting after, maybe?
yeah,
March 10th at 10:30 a.m.
yeah.
I won't be here.
Oh, you won't be here?
I will not be here on that meeting, which I can
Well.
comment ahead of time if I need to.
Want to
Oh,
go
and then
like,
we're going to pass this for everybody but I own.
Thanks. No, that's never been a complaint before, but that's okay.
So do you want to maybe go like three meetings away?
2019, another couple of weeks isn't going to be.
Yeah, whatever you guys, whatever, it's at your
Will
pleasure.
you be here at the meeting after that?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, let's go for that one then.
So that'd be the March 24th at 10:30?
That work for you, Dan?
That's fine.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with that?
Does the board want to ask staff to draft anything, potential staff-issued permit elements, anything like that?
That was going to be my question. Do you give us any direction between now and then to make some modifications?
Well, one we had was the amount of people. Clarify the question on camping or dry camping on that with fires, or, is it, how does that work? Make sure that we stipulate what is agritourism. Is it, I have a sunflower sitting in front of my house and I'm going to have somebody staying at the house type of thing for agritourism? I mean, I just like to get a little bit more of a definition.
Okay.
That's for me.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wonder if maybe we shouldn't include camping like in the A district, like low-impact camping, but maybe no fires, because the fire is kind of you have to think about that one a lot.
Well, so what's agritourism, and Amador Pines? That's what is, I mean, it's a beautiful setting, but what's agritourism sitting there? That's kind of my question in that aspect. Down where you are, the wineries, the other, city, that's a.
I would agree with you. One I could think of is across from Mace Meadows, you have the Barton Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
And man, they got a whole pile of apple trees in there and some beautiful apples. I mean, they're pretty, and.
You talking about the King Ranch or the Barton Ranch?
Barton Ranch. Actually, the King Ranch has all kinds of apples, even more. But I mean, I could see where maybe, owner one time, I cut some trees for him. He talked about maybe doing like a Christmas tree farm in there.
Right.
Which,
I've talked to him.
and the apples, I mean, whenever he has apples, I try to stop by there and get some, because they are like, yeah, they're really good. But so, I mean, camping is on the A area is something, maybe it's not the right time to talk about it, but maybe it is right now. That kind of brings another wrinkle into it. But there's a lot of people in the city, they want to get out of the city, they want to go out in nature, and they'll pay for it.
If the board added camping, would that require more CEQA?
Yes, because it's not currently under the existing
That's
code.
not currently, we don't currently allow it anywhere unless it's in, some designated RV park or something like that. So it would always have required a use permit and its own CEQA evaluation.
And it's our
So if
most.
you're looking
So our
at it
current
countywide-
operation is not allowing camping as part of the agritourism.
Correct.
Okay, then we'll leave it like that.
Because that would be expanding the uses.
Right.
And I mean, we can definitely examine that. I would probably recommend doing it as a separate
Okay.
discussion, just because, for complications.
So we can clarify that in the language too.
I also wanted to note too, there is a definition that was proposed as part of the ordinance. I can read it if you guys want. So it's the addition of agritourism means the act of visiting a working farm or ranch or any agricultural or horticultural operation for the purpose of involvement in the ancillary activities of the farm, ranch, or agricultural operation that also adds to the economic vitality of the operation. Agritourism uses include, but are not limited to, marketing events, farm tours, facilities for the promotion of agricultural crops grown on site, the sale of farm or ranch branded agricultural related merchandise, educational classes and lectures, you pick produce, seasonal celebrations, and other gatherings, activities, and uses found to be pertinent in the agricultural business. So in each of the sections for the different zoning districts, it does refer back to that definition. So.
I don't know how many sunflowers you'd have to have in order to.
Right.
Fill 2 bags, you're probably fine.
Yeah, and
More than one.
and there's
More
no
than one.
codified description of what qualifies
original-
beyond that currently. Well, and that's not included currently either. So, I mean, I know that the ag department may have different classifications for certain productions different brackets for that, but that's not referred to in the zoning code whatsoever.
I prefer a broader definition myself. I want to, keep it as, inclusive as possible.
I think it's great, right how it is, just saying it.
Is there any acreage requirements to do these activities?
No, not currently.
Yeah, see, that's why some of those things that you're having like, and most people are reasonable, they're neighbors, but they're not always the problem. There's always some stinker in a box of apples. And that's where I go back where somebody says, hey, I have 3 acres and I want to have roping events and horse shows and maybe they're not too much into dust control. All of a sudden, we just allowed a problem for the neighbors. And there's no way for us to rectify that problem. That's my concern.
I just looked up the Dobler Ranch, which is Barton, and he is 22 acres of R1A, but he's surrounded by highway and then houses.
Yeah.
So, kind of an interesting.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, if you guys end up wanting to go towards the ministerial permit stuff, I mean, we could definitely incorporate like minimum setbacks and things, because those are very easy for us to verify, versus the neighbor saying, oh, well, they're doing this, no, they're doing this. Like, if it's located in a specific place, that's fairly easy for us to say they're in
I think it's the
violation
two
or
larger
not.
categories is a smaller operation, which is probably going to be a little bit closer to neighbors, and the bigger stuff, I mean, I think keep that as broad as possible, let people enjoy their land and what they want to do.
Could you maybe bring something back, like, the ones I kind of look at are like on the number 1 and number 6, like hay rides, sleigh, wagon rides, pony rides. When you start getting big animals and going around repeated times, you get dust issues. I mean, hey, I grew up in a ranch. I live in a ranch. I understand it. If you're out in A zone land where it's like 40 acres and larger parcels, people kind of don't care what the neighbor does. When you start getting small parcels, people care a lot more about what the neighbor does.
Well, I was going to say, in the section that the Ag Advisory Committee, I guess, proposed as far as parameters for use permits, I mean, most of those are yes or no questions, which would very easily be applied to a ministerial permit.
Yeah.
So that's just something.
And that right there, if there's some conditions there that they're not meeting and can't or won't meet, at some point you can say, hey, you're out of here.
My guess, my other question, in interest of the public too, is our timeline. Is that going to push anybody out of that time window for them not to be able to get permitted in time for the season?
Probably not.
Okay.
The permit that we're working on for Kirkland Ranch is already in progress, so
Okay.
it's not going to change anything.
I just don't want to hold anybody back from getting to it, so.
And another curious question, I heard 5,000 from Baracco, I think I heard 7 from Kirkland Ranch, and now possibly 9,000 for a use permit. Is there that much variables? Is there kind of what it generally costs?
I mean, our fees for a use permit that requires a CEQA evaluation is right around 3,000, but I know environmental health charges a review fee that's not even $500. Public Works has the option to if it affects them. I don't think that fee is any more than $1,500, so I don't
Public
know, we're
Works?
getting to 9,000, but
Then you got Fish and Game.
Fish and Games is right above 3,000 now. It goes up every year.
So then if you got 3,000 in fees, plus there's another 500, plus a 1,500 for Public Works, plus a 3,000 for Fish and Game, you'd be at 7. That's about 8,000, and there's probably some, that 9 number may not be too far off then.
And we won't be the only department of government asking for some paperwork and some money.
Yeah, so
I went into business, there were like 40, and they all said, well, it's just a small price, and it's just a couple pieces of paper. And then it was a huge price collectively, and it was half your year drowning in paperwork.
Oh, yeah, just the time it takes.
Yeah, and they all say, well, if you can't afford this little thing, then you shouldn't be in business. Well, I can afford your one, but you're one of 100. Sorry.
A little hostility there?
Yeah.
No, I concur with Supervisor Carnell because I seen it. it's not the one thing that kills you or the two, it's like 30, 40 of them, and then they start off free, and the next thing you know, they're saying, well, we need to cover cost, and it's a few bucks. And at some point, you realize you spend a lot of time just going through the paperwork minutia. So I get it.
Okay, well, do you have virtually everything you need?
I think so, unless you want to do a minimum parcel size, 'cause I think that's substantive enough that we would re-advertise the hearing, just to make that change.
I think I don't think it needs a parcel size in a lot of them, but I think when you get the animal husbandry, where you got animals, that's where if you have that over-the-counter use permit, you can kind of keep a little finger on that.
I think the setbacks probably would cure a lot of that, I believe, but that's my thought on that.
And if the arenas are the big concern, we can just move that to a use permit, regardless of the size of parcel or.
I don't want to do a full-blown use permit. I mean, you're talking $8,000-9,000, and I mean, ugh. So I think that's it, over-the-counter use permit or some parameters. I think if it's really out of control, you could probably, let me ask you this, if they're not meeting their conditions in that over-the-counter use permit, it can be revoked.
Or they could apply for the more substantive
Yeah.
one if it doesn't, if they
I think
realize that it
kinda-
doesn't.
I think that would give us a safety event, so if there's some real problems going on, we can address them, or then go try to get a special use permit.
So I just wanted to confirm, so for the next meeting, you guys want kind of a sample ministerial use permit with those parameters kind of listed out and then can,
Yeah.
all right, cool. Yeah, we can do
Supervisor
that.
Cornell, anything? Okay.
Thank you.
Supervisor Crew, anything you else want for the next meeting? Since you'll be chief? Okay. So
very
March
much.
24th, this item has been postponed to. Okay, we're on to item, I don't need to do anything else from the public? Okay. Because we're not closing this. Okay, 4C, Planning Department consideration of Planning Commission's recommendation regarding amendments to County Code Section 19.72.050, accessory dwelling units to incorporate change required by state statutes and specific government code and everything else for dwelling units.
Good morning again, Chuck Beatty with the Planning Department. So once the state legislature adopted the original ADU codes in 2020, they've made multiple changes to those, many of which, or to the basic housing legislation. A lot of those have not applied to Amador County, but most of the ones affecting ADUs have. And we've incorporated those into our daily practice. This is as a matter of policy, but there are a few that they want to actually see in our code. So there are 5 proposed amendments that are before you today. 2 of them are actually just clarifications in the ordinance, and one has to do with junior accessory dwelling units, which are really a conversion of a basement or a garage or a space of less than 500 square feet inside an existing house. The code clarifies that you can have that a junior accessory dwelling unit as well as a detached accessory dwelling unit. And as always, in the unincorporated area, the limitation there is whether or not you've got enough water and septic capacity to handle those. But you could have a primary unit, a detached ADU, and a junior ADU inside the house. So there's no change there to the law, except we're just clarifying the language. And the second one has to do with rental terms. You've always restricted ADUs from being short-term rentals. But the code has some language in it that says they shall be rented for terms of longer than 30 days. They don't have to be rented, but if you do rent them, then the term has to be longer than 30 days. So we're just clarifying, taking out the shall, so that it doesn't sound like they have to be rented. The other 2 have to do, one with multifamily projects. Again, not a big issue in the unincorporated area, but it would allow, you have to allow at least 1 ADU for every apartment that's on the site, up to a maximum of 8. So if there are up to 8 apartments, someone could build, if they have adequate facilities, up to 8 standalone ADUs on the parcel. And the other has to do with unpermitted ADUs. If an ADU was constructed prior to January 1 of 2020, which was the original statutory permission for ADUs, there's a process where those could be, basically they get an as-built permit, as long as either a county inspector or a private third-party inspector looks at it and makes sure that it meets the minimum requirements of the health and safety code, then they can get an as-built permit, and without the county imposing any penalties like double permit fees because they didn't get an original permit. So that has to be in our code. And the fifth potential amendment had to do with the separate conveyance of an ADU as a condominium. And the Planning Commission recommended approval of these first four ones, but they did not recommend approval of the option to allow ADUs as condominiums because they saw it as just being an administrative nightmare for staff and potentially the public. But it would require that if you approved it, the units would have to have their own separate public water and sewer connection. So again, it limits that availability in an unincorporated area, just to eliminate confusion and possible legal issues with somebody who owns the primary house. They also own the well, they own the septic system, but they don't own another unit that's on that same property. And what do you do when the well or the septic system starts having problems? Then that's why the Planning Commission backed away from that. But that's not a requirement. That is just an option if you desire to allow it. To date, no one's asked for it, and I think to date there's only one in the state, and that's in San Jose. At least they did the first one, but I don't know if anybody's done any additional ones after that. But again, they had all the utilities. It's in an urban area. It's not an issue. The recommendation, the amendments were reviewed by the Planning Commission. They recommended approval of the first four, but not the one to deal with condominiums, which you could always do at a later date if you want. The recommended board action is to make a determination on the adequacy of the proposed CEQA categorical exemption. And if you move to approve, then the recommended findings that are included in your staff report are recommended for inclusion with that motion to approve.
Anything from the supervisors?
Looks like it's housekeeping.
Okay, anything from the public? Anybody on Zoom?
Not at this time.
Okay. Motion to close this public hearing?
Moved.
Okay. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Back to the board for discussion. So I guess, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we determine the adequacy of proposed categorical exemption as the appropriate secret document per sections 15061B3, no significant effect. And then I move to approve, along with that, items 1 through 4.
Second.
Second from Supervisor Cornell. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And this meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, February 24th at 9 a.m.